Hello there. This is Dr. Jason Munsell. It is 3:17 Central Standard Time in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hope life is treating you well. God, I hope it rains. It's been still hot and nasty, but not quite as hot and nasty. I know the weather's a little bit better there in Columbia as well. But in any case, welcome to week number 3. I still need to go back and look at some of the threads and the tweets and the blogs and all that type of stuff. But I've been reading through the stuff that you've been doing, and for those of you who are doing it, doing an excellent job. I hope that you're learning stuff, which I think is the function of this class. As we move into the third week, and as I said in the email that I sent you earlier today, we're sort of skipping around a little bit, and so I want to focus on chapter 6 right now, just a little bit of chapter 6, not much. And then I'll also, at some point today or tomorrow, put a new thread up. But I put a PowerPoint up for the first part of chapter 6 on KC, as well as a little handout that might be helpful when you're sort of looking at your commercial for the first paper. What I would do, in fact, this is going to be a new thread that I'll put up at some point today. But one thing that I really need you to start doing this week, if you haven't already, I know a lot of you have because I've seen them through blogs and all sorts of things, but you need to pick a commercial that you want to do. And it can be longer than 30 minutes, Christy, if you want to. That beard or whatever it was, the minute or the dollar shave thing, whatever it's called, I thought was super cool. But in any case, it would be an interesting paper. So I can be a little bit lenient or a little bit open and flexible with all that stuff. But I would suggest that you pick a commercial today, start looking at it closely and analyzing it and everything like that. Go back and look at the assignment. Start sending me rough drafts, even though this week and next week is going to be a little bit wonky, as I said, because I am flying back home on Wednesday. I've been here for 2 weeks now, and whoa. And then next week, we're going down to the beach. So I'll be doing some online lectures from the beach and stuff like that. So it'll be beachy. So in any case, let me get to this so it's somewhat brief. And hopefully this will help you understand some stuff. So this stuff is sort of is self-explanatory and very detailed. I don't put a lot of it. Well, yeah, we'll see. But in any case, so persuasion, here's the puppy monkey baby, which is just sort of freaky. Yeah, what was that? It's Monday, so the mowers are here, so they're having a good time. One thing, they're cutting it up. One thing that I put here is just a reminder, because chapter 6 starts off with reminding us about this stuff, is all the semiotic stuff and the semiotic theory and the idea of signs, symbols, and words and everything like that. And so I do say, go back and look at page 45 where it talks about the iconic signs, which is things that represent things. Visuals oftentimes work that way. Indexical signs, where there's sort of an association or cause effect, and then symbolic signs that are more ambiguous because they're purely arbitrary. And then we got these codes, basically like words. There's again no to make sense of symbols. We use codes or correlation between words and the objects they represent. Blah 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 blah. We live life through a code book. So they start talking about those again, just to remind you of stuff, because visuals, as I did when I talked about the silly little Trump Hitler thing, sort of we can see it working through signs and symbols and all that jazz through semiotics. So they sort of remind you of some of that stuff here in this particular chapter. Try to clarify how visual images have meaning, blah, blah, blah. That's what we're going to do. But here, remember, I always want you to think in terms of the objectives for every chapter, so you're sort of on the same page. And so chapter 6, as you read through this, you need to identify the attributes of visual symbols and how those attributes give meaning to symbols, possibly. And that's where the semiotic stuff comes from. And that's what I'm going to focus on today. Understand how media communicate visual images. Describe three ways visual images persuade, audiences. Explain how visual images communicate through visual spectacles, logos, and architecture. Use theory to evaluate visual images, blah, 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 blah. So, the first bit, role of image. The stuff on Jameson, I don't know if you can see this or not. I'm twerking it today. I'm making this PowerPoint twerk. What Jameson says on page 155, I think is incredibly important, and it's stuff that I've said before at the beginning of our time together, our semester together. Visual, 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 visual. Jameson says visual signs are used more frequently and with more force than verbal signs these days. Jameson explains that the images often substitute for words and persuaders' message. Put simply, visual images dominate many forms of persuasion. Visual, 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 visual. So visuals are important. Yeah. There we go, Miley Cyrus. I liked her better when she was Hannah Montana. But, you know. So what this first part of this book does is just give you some very, very detailed, first part of this chapter, very, very detailed stuff about all the ins and outs of these different aspects of visuals, the main attributes of visual symbols. So it talks about color, it talks about form, it talks about lighting and space, it talks about movement, and all this type of stuff. And so it gets into the nitty-gritty. So, and I'm not going to define all these things for you, so because you can remember it, or you can read it. But when you're talking about color, we have to think about all these different things, like the hue, which is generally, the color. And there are three primary colors. You're learning this in college. Yellow, blue, and green. Yellow, red, and blue. Yellow and blue make green. God, I'm an idiot. Saturation, the purity of the color, difference between black and gray, red and pink, blah, blah, blah. Brightness, range, blah, 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 blah. So basically, all these things are mechanisms for you to sort of discuss color in the advertisements that you look at, or just sort of think in terms of the significance of color. And the meaning of color with any sort of commercial or whatever you might possibly see out there that could be persuasive. And then it sort of gets into, sort of how meanings are sort of conveyed. It talks about what red has meant in the past, purple, and boys wear blue, girls wear pink, and all this crap. A lot of this stuff is really, really arbitrary. Some of it's just been codified, or conventions. We have these code books, though, the color green, it makes sort of sense. Some of this makes sense, but and so one of the things that you could do, again, this is code work. This is, but dark blue, gray, and black are often seen as power colors, indicating they convey authority. Brown is seen as more friendly. Color preferences vary with age. Youth prefer warm, bright colors. So if you're targeting youth, bright, bright, bright. Adults prefer cooler colors. In our culture, the colors red, white, and blue take on additional meanings. Virtually every political candidate uses these colors in his or her campaign, as do a variety of businesses like Pepsi. Change we can believe in. From Obama back in the day. Pepsi. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. Look at Hillary Clinton's thing. Red, white, and blue.